Well, it's the 15th of April. It's a Thursday. The sun is shining. There's a cold northeasterly wind. I'm off for overnight camp just round by Ventnor. In fact, it's called Chael. I've got to do a walk-in of about 12 miles. Relatively easy, relatively flat on the coast with the sun shining. So it's going to be a nice bumble, really. So yeah, and I'm coming back tomorrow morning. So let's get on. I'm in my car. I'm about to drive away to pick up my friend in Shanklin. Oh, look at that. This is the edge of Ventnor. Just started off while making our way along the coastline. It's a glorious day, slightly cold, but fantastic for backpacking. As I said, I've been waiting to do this for a long time because of lockdown, but yeah, I'm off to make my way west around the Isle of Wight. And if you ever walk the Isle of Wight, the best half is the southern half, without a doubt. So let's get going. Just gonna walk along the sea wall, the STEEPHILL Cove. Hope you can see this. It's a really great day for photography. I've not brought my camera with me, except this Sony RX02. So I'm gonna make my way into the cove, make my way out, meet my friend who didn't want to walk down here. Never mind. But it's such a beautiful cove, I have to show it to you. Just arrived at STEEPHILL Cove. Take a look at this. Beautiful. It's worth the detour. In fact, it is on the coastal path actually, but also you can go over the top, which my friend has done. I'm going to meet him over there, but just one more time. Well, hopefully you can see that bay. I'll get close to the edge of the cliff. Bit risky. There's little bays like this all the way along here, and you don't get people on them normally. It's a bit of a scramble down, but this part of the Isle of Wight is probably up there with one of my favourite parts in the world. I just absolutely love it. And when I leave the Isle of Wight, which I'm going to do soon, I'm going to miss this, definitely. One more time for that view. Look at it. I will miss it. As I said, I'm leaving the island for various reasons. Well, one big reason I'm not going to talk about on camera. I'm going to leave this behind. And I'm a bit sad. I'm also looking forward to doing other things on the mainland. Used to live in Scotland, know the Munros really well. So maybe that's where I'll end up, or maybe the Southwest Coast Path. I don't know, I've not made my mind up yet. I've done the Pembrokeshire Coast Path in places, not the whole thing, but most of it in day trips. So yeah, I will miss this. This is very, very unique, this area. As I said, it's called the Undercliff because there's an inland cliff there. You might not be able to see it, of course. I realise you probably won't. But that reflects the heat down, and I'm actually really hot at the moment. I'm sweating. This pack though, from Arc'teryx, this AERIOS, AERIOS 45, I don't appear to be sweating on the back that much. So they've done their research. It seems to be working. Anyway, onwards and upwards, because my friend's up there, so he's waiting for me. So look at this view down there. I think that's Sir Richard's Cove. That's St. Lawrence, part of Ventnor. It's very prone to landslipping. So the official coastal path goes right. We're going to go that way. Now this was the official coastal path, but because of a landslip, a big major landslip, the path away from the beach became very broken and basically unnavigable. But over time, people have hacked their way through. So the coastal path does go back up there, but unless you've got local knowledge, I don't recommend it. So that's the official way. We're taking the unofficial way. As I said, officially, this path closed. But if you know what you're doing, you can come this way. Also here, there's RAF St. Lawrence, where they had a substation for the radar during the Second World War. Because Dover and Ventnor on the Isle of Wight were two important radar stations, and this was a little substation here. Hence the concrete bunker, and I'll show you more when we get there. Now, the aerials weren't the revolving ones we see for radar today, so there was just two aerials, I should imagine, with wire strung between them, and that's the bunker. Whether the bunker had the screens for the radar, I don't know. So that's the other half of the aerials. Or when I say aerials, that was the other base. The other base is there. I guess they strung wires between them, etc., etc. So I don't know a lot about radar from those days, but as I said, it's not the 360-degree rotating one. It worked totally differently. Just making our way into BINNEL Bay here. BINNEL. As I said, this is the old coastal footpath and it's officially closed. So it's illegal to walk along here, really. Well, it's against the bylaw. Everything's illegal if you want to look at it in that way. And there's a very good campsite down here as well. We came down here last week and there was about 4 or 5 people in their early 20s camping down there, which is really good to see. And at their tents and their little fire and everything. So yeah, it's really good to see that the generation coming through still have that desire to get out into the outdoors, basically, because they live in that generation where technology has been on their doorstep since they were born. There's lots of little streams that come to the coast here, and that's one of the reasons why this is landslipping, because you've got the green sandstone behind and there's springs coming out to the bottom of it, sort of eroding away the land basically, and it's made up of a very soft clay. We call it blue slipper or GAULT or whatever you like to call it. I'm not a geologist, and this keeps moving towards the sea. So this was the old coastal path, but as I said, due to slippage, it's basically moving into the sea. This is BINNEL Bay, lovely little bay. And the campsite that people use, when I say campsite, I don't mean official campsite, I mean a wild camping site that people use at the end of the bay there, but a beautiful little spot. I've just come up from the beach. It's a very weird little area because it's landslipped so much. There's paths going everywhere. If you don't know what you're doing, you can get lost. You'll get there eventually. I've just noticed the wild garlic. So yeah, the ransoms. I don't know if it's a member of the allium family, but I've eaten the leaves and you can eat the leaves. I'm going to prove it now by eating part of a leaf. It doesn't have the taste quite of garlic. It has more of the smell, but you can put it in salads and it's perfect to it. In fact, it does have a garlic aftertaste and it goes quite bitter, but I like that in a salad leaf. So yeah, you can eat them. We're just going to make our way down to St. Catherine's Point. That's the lighthouse, obviously. Then we're going to make our way along the beach. A lot more to see, but what a view. Cracking spring day. Absolutely beautiful. Well, we're here at ROCKEN, the most southerly point on the Isle of Wight. Come down there, we're going to make our way around this. At high tide, it can be a bit risky, but yeah, we'll make our way over the rocks. It's a bit of a clamber, about a quarter of a mile, and then we'll be on a very long shingle beach. I'll show you that to you when we get there. And at high tide, it's not to be recommended. Well, actually, it has to be a very high tide to stop you getting around, but a lot of people have been rescued by the Coast Guard here, so please be careful. This is not on the coastal path, obviously. Just about to see the Needles come around the corner there, or the cliffs by the Needles anyway. So let's make our way up. I hope I fall down. They don't call it ROCKEN for nothing. Yeah, this is quite a rocky area. Got to be careful here. Oh, especially when you've got about 18 kilos on your back and you're getting on a bit. So when it's rough down here, it's quite spectacular, as you can imagine. It faces south. In a southerly gale, you literally get a lot of salt in your diet. People have been rescued here before, so I'm trying to take it easy without breaking my ankle. So I've got decent boots on and never, ever, ever wear track shoes, ever, or just ordinary shoes. Well, you know what I mean is trekking shoes. I always wear boots just to protect my ankle. Still rocky. We're aiming for that beach over there. It's a nudist beach, by the way. It's not official, but if they're down here today, they are very brave people. There's a bit of a fossil marking there. This is a very fossiliferous place. Oh, look at this big expansive beach. I've just met a chap there from Bushcraft Isle of Wight, or Isle of Wight Bushcraft I should say, named Shane. I've just got some water from there, and I am using a Grail water press, which gets rid of viruses as well as bacteria, because this flows through agricultural land here, so I'm already worried about pesticides and stuff. But yeah, I have filled up with water. I just don't trust bad water. I've had too many bad experiences. It was nice to meet Shane there. He's just casting out. Shane from Isle of Wight Bushcraft. I've seen his videos. He hasn't done a video for a while, but yeah, nice bloke. This beach is a bit of a slog. Now this land here is owned by someone, of course. It's probably the council, but it's completely on the move. So we're going to make our way to that ledge that comes down, and hopefully we'll find somewhere dry. If we don't, we're going to have to walk all the way back. And there's another campsite at ROCKEN. When I say campsite, I don't mean official campsite, a paying campsite, just a place where you can camp. It's flat, but we're going to have a look at it and see how we get on. Here are the remains of houses. It's basically, you won't be able to see it very well, the road carried on, but obviously it broke off. I don't think there was any deaths when it fell in 1925, I think it was. But you can see this whole area is on the move. It's very wet. Basically, it's falling into the sea all the time. You can come along here and see falls at any time, especially in the winter. Normally mudslides, but it's quite a risky area. Where we're going, it's a bit flatter and we're not at risk. So yeah, and the sun's got away now. It's quite cold, but I reckon we're in for a great sunset when this finishes. That's the view back to ROCKEN, where I saw Shane from Isle of Wight Bushcraft. We're making our way up that little bluff sticking out. We're going to try and find a flat area. It might not work out. It might be too wet. Let's see. The sun's come out a little bit, looking back towards ROCKEN. This is very muddy and awkward. It's almost like a prehistoric area. There's a lot of fossils found around here. The famous place for fossils. Lots of paleontologists come here, but it is very muddy in places. Very difficult. It's dried out a little bit, but it's, yeah, we're just trotting on some blue slipper, they call it locally, and people have actually got trapped in it and had to be rescued. So yeah, right, up we go. We're going to find a flat bit up here, hopefully. If not, as I said, we'll turn back. But it's a hell of a trog if we do turn back. So impressed with that view. And this is probably one of the most isolated places on the Isle of Wight. Well, it is the most isolated place on the Isle of Wight. You can see the walking we had to do. Likewise from Whale Chine that way, and the Chine is a fissure where the river flows down through. They're only in Dorset and the Isle of Wight. And so this is very isolated, so we're not going to get disturbed down here. But there are footprints on the beach. People do walk along here, and fishermen especially at night time. So we might have guests later. So here we are on the ledge. You can see how stuff is falling down all the time. It's very wet here as well. Hopefully we'll find a dry patch. This is a marsh where the mud, water here. That's very deep mud. Got to be careful. It's very sticky mud as well. We've been down here before, but you've got to circumvent this bit, or else you'll end up sinking in the mud. And it's very deep. That's not a joke. It is very deep. It's very, very muddy. Look at the colour of that pool. This sandstone is called ferruginous sandstone. Obviously, the ferruginous bit means iron sandstone, so that's why it colours the water red there. It looks like something out of a prehistoric movie, sort of quagmire. You expect something to crawl out of this. This is hard going. The top is dry, but underneath it's very soft, and it's very deep. You go in, you go up to your knee. You've got to be careful. I'm sinking on the other side now. I'm sinking there, picking my way across carefully, sinking, trying to make it over to here. My friend's footsteps. So up onto this little rock face here. I'm going to pitch up here. A little bit rocky, but we'll clear it out. A little bit soft, but the wind's light, so it should be all right. So let's clear it away. Well, we're here. We're pitched up. It's threatening rain, but I reckon we'll get a nice sunset in a minute. I don't know what's coming our way. I could check on the app on my phone, my weather radar app, wherever it is. And this is a bit of a dust bowl where I am, so it might dampen the dust down a bit for me, but could also turn it into mud. But anyway, yeah, that's the needles over there, which you can see, which you probably can't see actually. This is a very wide angle lens, and it looks like there's a bit of cloud on the horizon there. I'm looking back towards ROCKEN. So this is an area very few people come into, and hopefully they stay away. We might even get to see some adders in the morning. It's getting warm enough for the adders to come out, and they're a bit dozy, so hopefully this is an ideal spot for adders. Hopefully I might see an adder, because I haven't seen one for at least a year. Anyway, I better try and start to cook myself something, but I keep feeling for this rain, thinking, am I wasting my time? Got my noodles on the go. I don't have those ones that, you know, that you can cook easily. These are proper ones. And I've got a few things to add to it. I even add tomato soup, I don't know, to it. And I've got some garlic powder. This is really good. This is the ever new titanium non-stick. And I think it's 0.9 of a litre. And it's got a fantastic little frying pan. And I've used it last week. You can see the stains, and I know it's non-stick, but you know, you can't avoid that with any frying pan. And I don't want to scrub it too hard because it's apparently quite hard to coat titanium. But I don't believe it's totally non-stick, and they warn you, don't use high heat in the frying. So I kept it on low heat, and I don't mind a little bit of staining, but I'm really impressed with it, and it's very light. It's a little bit thin, but it's pretty good. Look at that view. The sun's going to come down in a minute, and it's pretty rainy everywhere, but over there you can now see Swanage and Old Harry Rocks, and a couple of liners off there because they're still off pool. That's the big liners, and right through to Kimmeridge Bay. But the sun hasn't dropped down, and it will do in a minute, and it'll be spectacular, so I'll show you that in a minute. Great little spot, very sandy, but you can't have everything. Well, take a look at that sunset, and the sun hasn't even set yet. I've not got a decent camera with me. I've got a Sony Alpha 7R2 with loads of lenses, but yeah, that's going to be really spectacular. So what a great location. Oh, look at this sunset. I mean, look at it. It's lighting up over there now, really nicely. Not a lot of wind, so it's really lighting up those cliffs. As I said, I wish I had my Sony Alpha 7R2 with me, which I don't, but it's pretty heavy with my 24-70mm lens on as well. So yeah, but look at this. I know it's very cheesy, this type of shot, but when you're here and you're camping, got our sort of tents here, and you can see how it's lighting up everything behind us, which really makes it beautiful. Oh, it got very cold last night, and my sleeping bag is a ASCENT 300, which got a comfort level of 6, and I was still freezing, and I put some hand warmers in, or 4 to be totally exact. I'm very cold now. You know, even though it's like the 10th or 11th of April, whatever it is, I can't remember now, 15th of April, it's still really nippy. I mean, the days are quite nice, but at night time it's absolutely freezing. Anyway, I'm in a dust bowl here. Let me show you. So I have to do everything outside the tent because I don't want to bring a load of, which is basically dirt inside the tent, really. Well, the sun is coming over the yard arm. We're going to wait till our tents dry off, and that is looking towards the Needles. There is an inversion fog, so you can't see things quite clearly, or sea fog as I should really call it, because although it is an inversion fog, it is a sea fog. So yeah, we're just waiting for the sun to get a bit higher and dry our tents off, and then we're going to make our way along the beach, and that's a trudge back towards night and back towards where we parked the car in Ventnor. Well, we're going to walk out now. We're trying to avoid the marsh at the back there. As I said, this is a very unique area. There have been anywhere like it in the world. It's got heather, it's got marshes. It's also got a lot of fossils in the cliff. We found a pair of waders, which we think was probably used by an amateur paleontologist to get into the marshy bit to look at the bottom of the cliffs for fossils, because there's quite a bit of money in fossils actually, surprisingly so. As I say, this is a really fascinating area. Take a look at the colour of that pond. It's almost something out of Jurassic Park, and there's no mobile phone signal here. You're on your own. So yeah, be careful. Airplane. Got down through that ravine there, wasn't easy, very muddy. Not the height, my friend must have got down somewhere else. Now we've got this beautiful walk along the beach. Well, you say beautiful, but actually it's very hard work. It's about a mile to that point there, so quite a long walk. Needles, Knighton, Rocken End, is the name of the point. We've got to clamber over those rocks like we did yesterday. So I'm going to turn off for a bit, preserve my battery, because there's not really much to show you here, just this shingle. Onwards and upwards. Looking back, what a view. This is coming to a nudist beach, and I think there's a couple down here already. Even though it's only about 11 degrees and there's a cold northeasterly wind, they're quite brave souls. So yeah, I better put the camera away. Bailed out from doing the rocks. This is another path which the naturists or the nudists made themselves. But you can see they've carved the steps out. So, you know, they come down here with shovels, so hats off to them, you know. They've created a path. I'm going to turn off now because this is a bit of a slog and show you a bit more when I get a bit higher. These guys have even put the planks in, the naturist people. Looking back towards the Needles there, where we come from. That pond down there is fed by river water. And as this place is very good for migratory birds, they often come to drink there when they're flown across the channel. So it's a very important place for bird watching. That's where the tides meet at certain times of the day. Very dangerous. Undercurrents. In a boat you'll be fine, but if you're swimming, you're dead, because it doesn't matter how good a swimmer you are, you'll get pulled under. This coastline is also famous for its wrecks, and they were deliberate wrecks sometimes. I mean, the reason this area is called BLACKGANG, because there was a gang here who were very bad, and they called them the Black Gang. So they sort of ran the area because this place wasn't really touched until the Victorians came along. And the people who live around here were pretty tough people. They used to catch the mackerel and row it round to Portsmouth. Well, to put that in perspective, that's probably 15 miles each way, 30-mile road just to bring their mackerel catch in. As I say, it was a bit of a lawless place as well. But the Victorians came in, put roads in. There was a road going through there. That was where the massive landslip was, because underneath these green sandstone cliffs, the water permeates out the bottom and moves. You can hear the rivers actually, or see them. Well, I doubt you can see them, but it moves the land downwards all the time. I'm in ninja mode at the moment because I've been in the shop in Knighton. This is called Alco hiking. And I like to have a stop in the day, and I'm just going to have myself a cider. It's quite strong. It's from Muchmarkle in Herefordshire, and it's 8.2%. I think some people will know what it is, but it's a lovely cider, but I can't do product placement. This is the undercliff, which I pointed out much earlier on from down there. You'll see it from the top. Lovely part of the world. Looking back towards St. Catherine's Lighthouse there. And we're making our way back to Ventnor along the top. And I'm going to show you a really interesting little path that takes us down this undercliff. There's an overhanging ledge on top of you, and it's a place that not many people walk, but it's not the coastal path, I have to reiterate that. Just see Ventnor in the distance there. That's where we're heading for. Quite tired though, must admit. My old body is packing in a little bit, but I've enjoyed it. You just think when you reach 63, that's it, you won't go wild camping anymore. But I suddenly decided I would. Luckily my friend's been doing it for years. He's a holder hat of it. So I've done it before in my 20s, and now I'm 63, I've started up again. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more trips until my body finally says, no, you can't do it anymore. But yeah, I love the outdoors, so this is where I want to be. So now we're going to be hugging at the midpoint of the cliff. So down there, not a massive drop. You can see it's quite an unusual path. It's probably my favourite path on the Isle of Wight. You can see we're underneath the cliff here. It's quite an interesting little area. I really do love it. And hats off to the ramblers. This path was really bad, and they put the steps in and made it really sort of safe. At one point it wasn't particularly safe, especially in the winter. But now, yeah, I think it's pretty good. So you can see it's quite a fascinating little area. We're halfway up the cliff following this very narrow path. You know, why is it there? What's the history of it? Was it used to carry stuff, etc., etc.? So green sandstone forms these shelves quite easily. I think it's the water dropping off them. So here we're in like a little tunnel. What a beautiful little area. The railway used to run along here from Ventnor to St. Lawrence. Now Ventnor's very steep, so there's 2 stations. That could be a bottom station to serve this area here. So obviously the actual brickwork's gone, or the stonework's gone, so it must have gotten unsafe, and they've taken it down. We're going to follow the old railway track along and drop down to near where I parked my car. So I'm not saying it's a boring bit, actually. This whole walk is absolutely fantastic. And the weather today, though cold, is very bright. And for photography, this is the best time of year in some ways, because even during the day, the light is harsh, but it's also got no haze, so you see things really clearly. This is the old railway track from Ventnor to St. Lawrence. I'll turn off now because it's a little bit boring.